Hey guys, I'm Rana. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys what I read in the month of January. As usual, this video is coming a little bit earlier. I'm filming this on the 21st, so it is not the end of January yet, but I go back to college on Sunday. So I'm not bringing any of these books with me, and I'm going to film my wrap-up early. Any other books I read outside in the end of this month, I will include in a recently reads video or a wrap up for February, something like that. But I just wanted to film this now and kind of share with you guys what I read in January. My current read, which I have not yet started, is Watch Over Me by Mila Gray. This is a new adult military romance book. It is very angsty, these books, super sad. I know nothing about this one in particular, but I loved the other ones, so I'm very, very excited to jump into this one and read it. This is book 4 of the series, and book 5 recently just came out. I don't own book 5 yet, but I probably will. But yeah, this is going to be my current read. So the month of January, I had a really, really good reading month. I read, so far, 14 books, so not as good as December, but I read really good books in January. A lot of them were 4 or 5 stars, or at least 3.5, and I thoroughly enjoyed pretty much every book I read. I did find my new favorite author this month as well, so I think that's really cool. I have talked about her in my past videos, so if you watch them, you know who it is, but I'll mention it when I get to her book. So the first book I read in the month of January was You Had Me At Ola by Alexis Daria. I gave this book 4 stars. I loved this book. It was so good. It was very, very funny. It was emotional. It was just really good, just writing and just plain pure a rom-com, and I really enjoyed that. So this talks about 2 telenovela stars. One is a star who's been in everything, but he feels like he's not getting any main roles, and he's losing kind of his shot. And the other one is a newer star who I think she appeared in other stuff, but she's had a really bad breakup, and this is her first really big role. So it's kind of about them, and what I really enjoyed about this book is they actually showed the scenes they filmed specifically, and I think that's what made me love this even more, that you were able to kind of read what you would watch if it was a television show. I love this book so much. I can't talk today. I love this book so much, and it was just really good, and it kind of started January off as a great month. So yeah, if you haven't read this, please go pick it up. It is super, super adorable, and I really want to see what else she's written, and hopefully there's something else written in this world. It also has a lot of LGBTQ representation, as well as just Latinas and different races, genders, whatever, and I really enjoyed this book. The next book I read was Radiance by Grace Draven. This is the first book in a series. I have no idea what series it is, but I enjoyed this. I also gave this 4 stars. I loved Grace Draven's writing. I thought her writing was really, really good. I enjoyed the world, and even though I haven't watched Game of Thrones, it reminded me of Game of Thrones 110%. I thought it was really interesting to kind of see her create a new type of, I hate to say creature, because a new type of race, that's what I say, because they're very humanoid, but they have different colorings and characteristics. I also enjoyed this because this was a slow burn romance. They really didn't fall in love with each other towards the end, and it was not based off looks at all. It was based off of emotion and personality and each other. I liked that you were able to see war and battles and how strong each of the 2 characters was. Overall, I just really, really enjoyed this book. The ending was definitely a cliffhanger because this is a series, and for this book being so short, there was so much content and world building in this. I was just shocked, and it made me want to read Grace Draven even more. I don't know if I'll necessarily continue this series particularly, just because it was good, but it wasn't like, wow, I want to keep reading more type of deal, because it ended with a cliffhanger, but not so much, if that makes sense. She does have another series that has a witch and a phoenix and everything in that I did show in my book haul. I'm going to start that one and see how I feel about that. But overall, I really enjoyed this, and I understand why everyone has been raving about this. If you want a pretty much a pure fantasy author who does really well with what she writes, definitely check this book out and check Grace Draven out. The next book I read was a hyped book. This book, it didn't even recently, it came out in October, and it's been all over social media for me personally. It's just because of the fan art of one of the characters in this. I do have a book review up of it. That's because I really enjoyed this. And that book is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. This is book 1 in her newest series. And yeah, I gave this 4 stars. It can, depending on my mood, it can sometimes be a 3.5. It really depends. I love this. I love any book that has the 7 deadly sins in it. I just love those types of books. I think it was fantastic. There was some issues, and it wasn't as, like, eloquent, the writing. I talk more about this in my review video, but it was really good, and I thought it was a really good start to the series. But again, there's some like minor issues that again I go into in my video. I will link this video down below if you're curious to see more of my thoughts, but I really did enjoy this. And just also look at the freaking map in this book. It is beautiful. But definitely check this out if you guys like the 7 deadly sins. I thought it was a pretty good representation of them. So yeah, but this is about a witch, and each prince of hell is one of the 7 deadly sins. So I thought that was really interesting. The next book I read was The Hunt, Twisted Kingdoms #1 by Frost K. This literally looks like a video game character on the book, which I thought was pretty cool. But this one I gave 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't amazing. And again, I think it has to do with the world building. This book kind of throws you into it, and it was good, but it wasn't like the type of fantasy novels that I like to read, if that makes sense. I feel like I like my fantasy novels slow building, where you're not thrown into it. Instead, you're introduced to the characters, and then they build the world around the characters. I don't know if I'm explaining that the right way, but yeah. So this one I really enjoyed. This is about a woman named Tempest, wow, who is trying to be a Madred. And the Madred are, well, she's a Madred, so she's born of a line of Madred. That's why she has blue hair. But she's trying to be a king's hound. So a king's hound is basically a servant of the king who's on his personal guard. And they kind of kill all outside competitors for the king's land, if that makes sense. I enjoyed it. There's shapeshifters in this, but there's shapeshifters in all different forms. There's a fox, there's a deer, there's a wolf, anything you could think of, and I thought that was a really unique touch. I also liked Tempest as a character because she was a woman assassin. Like, a woman assassin? Yes, count me in. Those books are amazing. I did enjoy this, and it did take you through a journey because it's kind of about a book where the king is evil, so she works her way through to the side she thinks is bad, but realize they're good and they're kind of the rebels, and then she ends up wanting to help them. So I thought that was a really unique touch. It does also leave in a cliffhanger. I think there's 2 other books out in the series, but again, I didn't love this book enough that I'm going to read the next 2 books, but I did enjoy it, and it may have just been because I'm very picky, but I'm very picky. But yeah, this is definitely an adult, high fantasy, not urban whatsoever, and it has a female assassin, so if that interests you, definitely check it out. Next, when I read this book, I loved this book so much. Bree over at, why am I forgetting her channel name? Love in Other Words, I think that's her channel name. She read this, and she read it a while ago, and it's been on our channel a couple times as like her best books of 2020, and I just never got to it because this type of romance, it's not my favorite, but when I read this book, I was like, Yes, I love it. And this is one of my new favorite authors. She's joined my list of my holy 3. So now it's become a holy 4. And that is The Forbidden Man by Karina Howley. Chef's kiss. 5 stars. Just beautiful, amazing, wonderful. Such a good book. I loved it so much. So, if you don't know, this book is a age gap forbidden romance between a female physical therapist and a male soccer player. This takes place in England and Spain, so it goes back and forth. So he plays on Real Madrid, and it's like a whole big thing. So she ends up getting a highly publicized divorce with the coach of Manchester United, and she's 40, I think, and he's 20. The soccer player is 23. She ends up taking the job at Real Madrid because she kind of wants to get her life together, be out of the spotlight a little bit, and he ends up falling for her first. And she's very professional, and she doesn't want anything to do with him. And she's like, no, like, you're too young, and I'm working, whatever. And he is a soccer player who got a really, really bad injury, so she's basically trying to rehab his injury. And it was just so good. It was so good. I love this book so much. It was just amazing. Yeah, just really, really good. I love the characters. I just loved, it was a sports romance, soccer sports romance. It was beautifully done because you were able to see the sport being played as well as their love, as well as character development. Just so freaking good. And I loved her writing. And my plan is to go through her backlist. When am I going to get to that? No idea. But I currently have one book of hers that I have not read yet that I will be reading. But so good. Amazing. If this sounds interesting, please go pick it up because this was phenomenal. Like, this, honestly, in my opinion, pretty much is level playing field with Colty by Marina Zapata. Just so good. Like, I really, really enjoyed it. And this also brings up realistic issues in here as well, which I just really loved. It was just so good. I can't stop talking about this book because I loved it so much. So good. Then the next book I read was also another Karina Howley book because I loved it. So, long story short, this book has been on my iPad for a while because I tend to, whenever I see people have their Kindle purchases, and I'll watch them, and then I'll just literally buy all the ones that are free. And they just sit there, and I kind of don't read them until I get into this mood. And this book was so far down. I purchased it in like 2018, and I guess I forgot about it. But I was like, I feel like I had this book. I had it. I read it. 5 stars. So good. And Karina Howley, like, bless her. She is just, her writing is amazing. So this book is The Wild Heir. Love it. Also, this cover. Like, who is this cover model? Beautiful. So good. This is a Marriage of Convenience Royals book. This is, I just got a text. This is book 2 of the series, but these are also standalones. Sorry, my mother's texting me about Bridgerton shirts. But, speaking of Bridgerton, before I get into this book, season 2 was renewed. Okay, dance party over. So this book is super good. It's about the Norwegian prince, and he kind of has a whole bunch of scandals, and he's just very, like, playboy type in this book. And I don't love Marriage of Convenience books, but this book was just so good that I couldn't not love it. So this book follows him, and his parents basically are like, you need to get married, you're gonna be the next king, like, you need to figure your stuff out. So he's like, fine. So they give him a list of people to pick from. He actually picks her, and I completely forgot her name. I'm blanking out. But she is a princess of a super small kingdom. She's actually studying in University of Glasgow, I think, in Scotland. She's super smart. She's still a university student. I think he has to be 26 or 27, and she's 21, 22. But she's very outspoken. Environmental science. That's what she's studying. Super outspoken, wants to help the planet, blah, blah, blah. So she's invited for dinner, and they kind of tell her without telling her that, like, you're here because he's gonna propose to you. And she's like, No. So they agree to a 2-week arrangement where they're going to live together and get to know each other. And if she hates him, they're not getting married. But if she's fine with it, she'll get married with like a list of everything, like negotiations that she wants done. I just loved it because it had strong female. She was super smart. She literally did not take crap from him at all. And I also loved it for him because we were able to see him just grow as a character and kind of realize his mistakes, how mature he was and stuff like that. It was just so good. I love this series so much. The 4th book just got announced. I need to read 1 and 3 because I'm a little out of order here, but I love this and just so good. Amazing. If you want to start Karina Halley, please start Karina Halley because I'm obsessed with her. I love her. So good. So the next book after that, I think it is also a Kindle book, so give me a second. I'm kind of a little all over the place just because like I had my Karina Halley just meltdown. So next book I read was Exposure by Iris Blair. This book I ended up giving 4 stars. It was really good. So this is a university grad student romance because he's not necessarily a professor yet. So they do not so much nude modeling, but they do somewhat modeling. And I always forget the names of characters because I read it so long. But the woman in this book, she is a biology student in her senior year, I think. And she's applying for a whole bunch of grad programs. And he is her TA at one point, but he's a grad student. And it was really, really interesting, just the whole point of this book. And I liked it because, I don't know, it just gave me a different light of just like different industries and how people make money in school and stuff like that. I loved the romance. I thought it happened so naturally, and I just really enjoyed the concept of this book, and it was good. And this kind of goes back and forth between college life and regular life. So yeah, it's really good. If you want to try it out, try it out. I got it for free. I don't know if it's still free on Kindle anymore, but check it out if you want to. So the next book I read was Trial by Fire by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is book 2 in the young adult werewolf series. And I apologize already. This video is going to be super long. Sorry. But this one I only gave a 2.5 stars. I hate to say I hated this, but I hated this. It just wasn't really that good. I was very confused because there's witches that aren't witches that kind of arrive in this book, and I was like, what? And it's just really confusing, just this overall plot. But yeah, that's all I have to say because everything else is a spoiler, so it was okay. Then I read the last book in the series, which was Taken by Storm. This one I gave 3.5. I think, honestly, even though this is the shortest book, this was the best book in the series. It was really well developed. I loved what happened with all the alphas at the end, and I kind of think everything went full circle. It was super sad, and I did get, I don't know if I cried, but I got emotional over someone's death in this book. But I thought it was really, really good for it being a young adult book. But yeah, that's all I have to say about this one. Then I read, drumroll please, From Blood and Ash and A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by JLA. Beautiful, amazing. I love these books so much. They just give me life and joy and sadness, and I'm just like in shock that this, like, Jennifer Armentrout's brain thinks like this. Like, how? Like, how do you make up these characters? How? So good. I'm sure most of the people watching my channel have seen this because this book is super, super popular lately. But if you haven't, I'll give you a small rundown. I do have a review video that will probably be up about From Blood and Ash. I want to keep it as non-spoiler as possible because I hate to ruin people's reading experience. But this book follows Poppy, who is a maiden. So basically she's pure in every way. And she is raised in her little kingdom, and she is raised to be ready for an ascension. And you don't really know what that means until you read in this book, further in the book. But Poppy kind of wants to explore. She has a curious personality. She doesn't want to be locked up in her room. She doesn't know why she has to wear a veil and kind of cover herself, not talk to anyone. And she's always questioning, why am I here? What am I doing? Blah, blah, blah. So it's just so good. This whole series is so good. But this book is a high fantasy, and this is her first high fantasy she's ever written. It also has vampires and werewolves in many different contexts, and it's just so good. So beautiful. I love it so much. But what I can say is there's one character named Kieran, however you pronounce the name, who you meet in this book, but in the second book, he's a really big character. I love him. Like, I didn't think I'd love him as much as I do. And, like, I love Hawk, don't get me wrong. But it's just so good. And what I really do like about this book is, so there's gods in this book as well. And they kind of have a big tone, but not until you get into the second book where you realize their whole purpose and everything. But I really just enjoyed just everything happening. It was just really good. I gave both of them 5 stars, and April 20th is when book 3 comes out, and you bet you I will be reading it. But so good. So good. My boyfriend is actually reading this book right now because I told him read it or don't read it. It was on sale, I think like 2 days ago for $1.49 for Kindle. So I was like, yeah, read it. Just amazing. Please read. I love her. Okay, wow. Woo. The next book I read was The Bridge Kingdom by Daniel L. Jensen. I gave this one only a 3.5. It was good, but it wasn't phenomenal. I really don't understand the hype around this book, and I wrote this in my review. I felt like the beginning and the middle was like amazing, but then the middle of the end, I kind of was like, okay. It wasn't anything special. This one follows a girl named Laura, and she basically, I don't know, wait. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to say that part because that's a spoiler. But she basically becomes a spy for her kingdom, and she marries the enemy's kingdom, and her whole goal is to either kill him or find information for her father's kingdom to take over his kingdom, stuff like that. But obviously you learn things along the way that things aren't as they seem. And it was interesting. It was a very political book in a way, but it wasn't like the best book for me. I didn't absolutely love this. There is book 2 out right now, The Traitor Queen. I don't know if I will continue just because, like, I didn't fall in love with the characters, and it's hard for me to read a book that I can't love the characters in. So, yeah. Next book I read was Inferno, which is book number 18 of the Dark Kings series by Donna Grant. This is the last book, and this is Constantine's book, and wow, 5 stars. It was amazing, and I loved the ending. So she's actually writing a spin-off to this series, and if you don't know, all her series kind of connect in a way, but they're about different creatures in their world. So she's now writing a Dragon King series, which my gut feeling assumes is about other dragons. But I loved this one. It was so just nice to see Constantine's book. If you don't know, Constantine is the king of dragons. Well, the king of kings, which is the king of all dragons, as well as the king of the golds. And this book was just really good. It was a long time coming. So happy to have read this one, and I'm really excited to see what she's going to do with the next book and see where her head's at and everything like that. I really, really love Donna Grant, and I think she's a good introductory to paranormal adult romance, just because her books are I feel like they're simple without it being super complex, so you'll understand it without getting confused. She's very straight up, but I love her characters. They're very easy to get attached to. But if you're interested, please pick up her books. I feel like I don't see her books anywhere on BookTube at all. So good. I love this one. I also love this cover. Definitely worth a read. And the last book I read this month was Serpent Dove by Shelby Mahoran. I gave this one 3.5 stars. Don't yell at me, because I know literally everyone loves this book. I liked it, but I felt like the world building wasn't amazing. I feel like this book kind of just throws you into things and doesn't explain it. And I think that was my biggest complaint with it. I love the characters, and this book I literally just finished today. I enjoyed the characters, and I enjoyed the concept, and I liked it. It wasn't really what it was marketed to be. It was like a witch and a witch hunter married, and there was really no reason. But yes, they were married, but there's a whole bunch of side plot to it. I don't know, it's very confusing. I also wasn't a huge fan of like the opening couple chapters because I felt like they had no purpose there, if that makes sense. I think this reads as if it's the second book of the series, not necessarily the first book. I did enjoy it. I liked the magic that was used, but again, it didn't go into detail, and I think that's what it was missing. It was missing the extra push that I needed to actually understand it and really like delve into it. But I really did enjoy it. I thought her writing was really good, and I liked that it was set in France. I thought that was an interesting touch because I haven't really read any books kind of set in that atmosphere, but it was good. Again, I don't know if I'm ever going to pick up the second book. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but we'll see. Overall, I enjoyed it. And yeah, that is my wrap up for January. I apologize because this video is going to be super long because I kind of rambled about everything in this. I will probably do a recent reads if I read any more books within the next like 2 weeks or so. But yeah, again, if you want to be most up to date with me, follow my Goodreads, friend me on Goodreads. It's linked always down below in the description. I post all my stuff there and I post updates. So if you're interested, friend me down below. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.